Welcome back. This is part 2 for chapter 2. So I'm going to explain with you the concept of debit and credit in the account. So due to the spacing issue, I have reproduced this chart in other script. So let's start. So the first account nature that I want to discuss with you is cash or bank account. So what's the difference between cash and bank is either you put the money in your pocket or you put the money in bank. So they are similar, we refer to the money. So we know for every account we have two entry. The first one is debit, we put DR. The second one is credit, we put CR. So when I record an entry in the debit side for the cash and bank account, this refers to increase in the cash and bank balances. However, if I record an entry in the credit side of cash and bank account, this refers to decrease. Let's have some example on the increase or decrease. Example 1. When you sell product to your customer. Example 1. You sell goods to customer and you receive cash from them. Tell me, by having this transaction, your cash increase or decrease? Your cash will increase. Why? Because when you receive the money or receive the cash from a customer, the cash balances that you have will definitely increase because your cash is getting higher. Next example, example 2. When you pay, we say water bill, by using bank transfer. So tell me, when you making water bill payment, your bank balances will become higher or become lower? The answer should be lower because your cash and bank balance become lower after you pay the bill. So let me explain again. When the cash balances increase, we debit cash account. When the balances reduce, we use credit on the bank account. This is the explanation for the debit entry and credit entry for the cash and bank account. Next, the next nature of account that we want to discuss is revenue and income. Revenue or income. Revenue and income, they are same nature when we pass the accounting entry. So DR and CR. When we record debit entry in your revenue account, it means this is decrease on your revenue or income. On the other hand, if you credit an entry in your revenue or income account, it means that increase of your revenue or income. So I think from this comparison, you can understand that in the same nature of account, debit and credit will result in opposite effect. For example, cash and bank, when you debit in your cash account, it means that this is an increase entry. However, credit means decrease. In your revenue and income account, when you debit revenue or income account, it means decrease. However, when you credit your revenue and income account, it means this is increase. So let's have some example. So example 3. So when you sell product to customer, tell me, when you sell product to your customer, your total revenue become higher or become lower? The answer is higher. So when your revenue getting higher, you should credit revenue. Next, when your customer return unwanted product, when your customer return unwanted product to you, tell me, your total revenue will become higher or become lower after the return? The answer is lower. So when this transaction or event will result in lower revenue, so we debit the revenue account. This is the explanation for revenue and income account. I repeat, for revenue, when the entry is decreased, we debit the revenue account. When the revenue or income increase, we credit the revenue or income account. Next, the next account that I want to discuss with you is purchase and expenses. Purchase and expenses, they are same nature, so we classify them together. For purchase and expenses account, when we record a debit, it means this is increase on your purchase of expenses. When you have a decrease in your purchase or expenses account, it means this is decrease on your purchase or expenses. So let's explain this. Example 5. Let's say you purchase stock from your supplier. When you purchase stock from your supplier, your total purchase will become higher or lower? The answer is higher. When your purchase is higher, you should debit the purchase account. On the other hand, let's say you return poor quality product to your supplier. This will make your total purchase become lower after you return the product to your supplier. So we will credit the purchase entry. When your purchase increase, we debit purchase account. When your purchase decrease, we credit the purchase account. Next, the next account that we want to discuss is asset account. So for asset account, when your asset increase, we debit the assets account. When your asset decrease, we credit the asset account. Let me give you some example on the increase of asset and decrease of asset. Example 7. Let's say you buy car for business use. When you buy a new car for your company, the company asset will become higher or lower? The answer is higher. Your company asset will become higher when you purchase the car. So we debit the asset account when your asset is increased. On the other hand, let's say you sell the old machine. You have a machine in your production and you don't want anymore because this machine is obsolete or old, so you want to sell it off. So when you sell the old machine, your company asset become higher or become lower? The answer is your company asset will become lower. So we have credit the asset account. I repeat, when your company asset increase, you debit the asset account. When your company asset decrease, you make a credit entry in your asset account to show the decrease. Next, liability. For liability, we debit the liability account when your liability decrease. We will credit the liability account when your liability increase. So let's use some example to explain this increase and decrease in your liability. So for example, this is not so good. Example 9. Let's say you borrow money from bank as a loan. When you borrow money from bank as a loan, tell me, your liability become higher or become lower? Your liability become higher, right? When you have additional loan from the bank. So when your liability is higher, you credit the liability account. On the other hand, if you have paid loan installment, tell me, when you have paid loan installment, your liability will increase or decrease? The answer is decrease. When you pay loan installment, your liability will become lesser. So we debit the loan liability account. We debit the liability account when we make payment of the loan because our liability become lesser. And lastly, the last account that we want to discuss is equity. for equity, we debit the account when this is decreased. We debit the equity account when your equity become lesser. On the other hand, we will make a credit entry when your equity increase. Example, when you invest capital in your company, by invest capital in your company equity become higher or become lower? The answer is your company equity will become higher, right? Because when you invest new capital to the company equity will increase. So we credit the equity account when the equity is increased. Next example, when you withdraw the cash of company for personal use, when you withdraw cash of company for your personal use, it means that you are indirectly reducing the equity of the company, because once you take the money from the company equity will become lesser. So this shows a decrease in your equity. When you have decrease in your equity, we debit the equity account to reflect the decrease in your equity. So that's all for the explanation of your account nature. And this diagram is very important to you, for you to identify what is the entry that you have to pass in your journal ledger. So in the previous example, we just mentioned about what is the impact on the individual account. Let's say when you have increase and when you have decrease. So one thing to take note, we need to understand one thing. Every business transaction will involve at least 2 entries. It means that for one transaction, we have to understand what is the impact on at least 2 accounts, because we know for one business transaction or event, you will have at least 2 entries, and these 2 entries, one must be debit, another one must be credit. So in the previous example, from the example 1 to 12, we learned what is the impact on the individual account. So now we have to extend this entry to the debit in A account and credit into the B account. So we can practice this by using the example in our textbook. So let's look at the example of your journal entry. The first example, sales to customer and you collect cash. Sell to customer and collect cash. So from this transaction, which 2 accounts that you can identify from this transaction? The first one is sales, am I right? Revenue, because you sell something to your customer. And next one is you collect cash from a customer. Sell to customer, tell me, when you make sales to customer, you should debit the revenue account or credit the revenue account? The answer is credit, right? Because when you sell to your customer, your total sale will increase. When your sales increase, you should credit the revenue account. So on the credit side, we indicate revenue. In the credit side, we indicate revenue because the sales has been increased after the sales. Next, collect cash. Tell me, by collecting the cash from your customer, your total cash will increase or decrease? I think the answer is this one, right? Increase. Your cash balances will become higher or will increase after you collect the money from your customer. So we know if this entry will result in increase in your cash and bank balances, we should debit the cash and bank account. So here we write cash. So this is a complete journal entry. We have one debit, one credit. And if your answer can match to the diagram here, it means that your answer is correct. Let's continue to the example. Example 2. You purchase from your supplier and then you pay by check. You buy something from a supplier and you make the payment by using the check. Again, we saw two accounts in this transaction, right? First account is purchase, another account is payment. So check refer to the payment by using bank account. So let's identify the first one, purchase. Purchase from supplier. So when you buy something from your supplier, your total purchase will become higher or lower, will increase or decrease? I think the answer is increase, right? Your total purchase will become higher when you purchase from your supplier. So here on the debit side, we indicate purchase. Next, let's look at payment by check. So we know check means when we issue check to our supplier, it means that we use the bank balance to make the payment. So when you make payment to your supplier, your bank account, your bank balances, the amount will increase or decrease? The answer is increase. The answer is decrease. Your bank balances will become lesser or will decrease after you make the payment to your supplier. So on the credit side, we have to record bank. So this is a complete journal entry, one debit and one credit. Next, the next one, we pay rental expenses by using cash. So let's identify which account will be involved in this entry. We know we have rental expenses and we have cash. These are the two accounts that is involved in this transaction. Let's have a look. So this related to your purchase and expenses account, right? When you pay your rental to your landlord, your total rental expenses will become more or become less? The answer is will become more, increase. It means that your total rental expenses will become higher after you make the payment. And on the other hand, you pay cash to your landlord for the rental, and your cash balances will become more or become less after you make the payment. The answer is become less, decrease. So we credit the cash account. Answer: we debit the expenses and we credit to cash. And these expenses, to be more specific, we shall use rental expenses. Why we cannot just using expenses? Because there are many types of expenses. For example, water, electricity, salary. There are many types of expenses. So to be more specific, we should write down the nature of the expenses. For this example, rental expenses. Next one, I buy motor vehicles by using cheque. Let's identify which account will be involved in this transaction. We know the first one is motor vehicles. The next one is cheque. So let's go back to the diagram here. So motor vehicles related to which account? Motor vehicles relate to the asset account. So tell me, when you buy new motor vehicles, the company total asset will become higher or become lower, increase or decrease? The answer is increase. The company asset will increase after purchasing the motor vehicles. Next, we know we're using cash payment for this asset, right? So by buying the motor vehicles, you have to make payment. So your cash become more or become less after you make the payment. The answer is decrease. So let's record. The debit side, we put motor vehicles. Why we cannot write asset? Because there are many types of asset. For example, a factory, computer, there are many assets. So to be more specific, we shall write motor vehicles, so people can understand that this is related to the motor vehicles account. And next, this one is by using cheque, right? So the credit side should be on bank. Next, I pay loan by using cash. So let's identify the account that will be involved here. So the account to be involved is paying loan, and then you use cash for payment. So let's take a look. Loan. So loan is related to which account here? Loan is related to your liability. And another account that involved is your cash account, because you paid the loan by using cash. Tell me, when you borrow money from bank and you make loan payment, your liability will become more or become less? Your liability will increase or decrease after you make the payment? The answer is decrease. Your liability become lesser after you make the loan installment or loan payment. On the other hand, when you make loan payment, your cash balances will become more or become less? Your cash balances will become less after you make the payment. So from here, the double entry we know is we debit the liability account, which is your loan, and we credit to the cash. And this one, in order to make you more understand when you do the revision, this motor vehicle is your asset account and loan is your liability account. Last, example 6, owner inject cash in company as capital. It means that the owner has used his own money and put this money into the company as what? Capital. So for this transaction, we have two accounts to involve. The first account is cash and the next account is capital. So let's have a look. So we know the account involved is capital and cash. So for capital, capital is recorded under equity. Why? Because capital is the money belongs to owner. This is the amount invested by the owner. So equity, capital refer to the equity account. And the next account that involved is cash. So when the owner put more money in the company, the cash and bank account will become more or become less. The answer is become more. The company cash and bank balances will become more when the owner inject the money to the company as a capital. On the other hand, let's look at on the equity. The total amount belongs to the owner will become more after the owner invests the money in the company. So the double entry is we debit the cash account and credit to the capital account. So we debit to the cash and credit to the capital, and we can take note that capital is your equity. Please take note that when we prepare the journal entry, we are prepared on the view of who? We are prepared on the view of company. We are not prepared on the view of supplier, customer, or the owner. We always prepare on the view of company. Taking example 6 as an example, you may argue that, sir, owner cash will become lesser because they put his own money to the company. But please take note that the journal entry, we always prepare on the view of company. We don't care the owner cash and bank balances whether increase or decrease. We only focus on the capital. For example 6, the cash of the company increase, so we debit the cash account. On the other hand, the capital become more, so we credit the equity. So that's all for the part 2 in your chapter 2. And the exercise here, classroom exercise 2.1 and 2.2, I will cover with you during the live session. And that's all for part 2 in your chapter 2. Thanks for watching.